On today's Newsmakers, Rachael Lampa returns to the limelight, an ex-NFL star defends the unborn, and a woman's journey from chaos to Christ. Welcome to Newsmakers, a show where we go behind the headlines every week to bring you interviews with pastors, entertainers, politicians, and other notable figures. On today's Newsmakers, we're starting with an interesting interview. It's singer Rachael Lampa. You may remember she rose to fame in the early 2000s and then virtually disappeared from the music industry. Now she's back and she has an incredible story to share. Let's welcome Rachael to Newsmakers. Now, Rachael, you recently won your first K-Love Award for Perfectly Loved. What was that like?
If there's like a definition of caught off guard, that was it. Like I mean, we all laughed. Like me and my friends and my family, after when I got off, it was like, we were just laughing because I was just like, I had like literally nothing in my head planned to say because I just was so sure, like, you know, it's like when you hear your song on the radio, you only hear everybody else's more, you know, you only like everyone else's more. So I just was so sure that it wasn't going to happen. But then you start to feel like a couple seconds right before they announce your name, you start to feel the cameras come towards you. And I just was like, oh, no. Because I was like, I'm not ready. So yeah, all that to say, caught off guard, but insanely grateful and just totally, it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, you know, you're coming off of this time away, right, from music, a decade, really. I mean, you were in music still, but not front and center like what you were doing. Let's talk about that a little bit. I want to get into what went on during those 10 years and what you were doing, but what has it been like to sort of jump back in?
Yeah, it's been really like unexpectedly different, obviously, than it was when I was 14, if we want to go way back, because that was when I really was doing this full on and just like on the road all the time or in the studio, just kind of this constant, like, you know, like cycle of being on. And as a teenager, it was just like, I mean, who are any of us, you know, in our heads when we're teenagers? Like it just was, it was just a jumbled up, like not mess, but kind of a mess, you know, of like trying to make sense of growing up, getting to know who I am, but also like jumping on interviews and trying to pretend like I know who I am.
Trying to pretend you have it all together. And what 14-year-old, what 19-year-old, gosh, what 22-year-old has it all together? Nobody does. I mean, honestly, at that age.
I'm 37 now, and no, I don't know either.
Right. You're still figuring it out.
Yeah, exactly. But now the difference is I know that I don't have it all figured out. So I think that has been the biggest difference, is that like I just am able to show up in an honest way, and in a way where, you know, I don't have to put anything on. I don't have to, you know, feel like I have to strive for like everyone's acceptance and everyone's love. And there's much more peace, you know, inside, and a lot more just knowing that I'm enough no matter what happens. And so being back in it, to answer your question, has been like really sweet and redeeming and refreshing. And yeah, I'm just having a blast.
I love that. My last question for you, just in light of the fact that I think the last couple of years have been, I know they've been really difficult for so many people, a lot of struggles, you know, going on, a lot of people not feeling peace. And so when you think about where you were when you weren't feeling peace, you were looking for it, what would be your message to those who might be watching or listening right now, who are in that position that you once were in? They're not sure where to go or what to do.
Yeah. I think the best thing that somebody reminded me, which was my husband. My husband's a therapist and a Christian, and it's awesome because I get to have this woven in thing where I'm like, oh, that and that, oh, yep, that works. I've got tools, I've got all this. So the thing that he reminded me was like, you know, he likened it to when he gets migraines. So he gets like these really bad migraines, and when he gets them, he used to just like fight them and just like take, you know, like the medicine and like just find this way to like fight it off. And now he's like, you know what? Like none of this medicine has worked. I'm just gonna close my eyes and just rest in it, try to fall asleep, but just accept it a little bit, you know? And I think that that's been a thing lately. It's like when I am in a deep pain or I am in a deep struggle, I have stopped trying to fight it and I've been trying to find God in it. And then we climb out together. We find peace together. Rather than be like, oh, here it comes, like swat it away. Like pain is part of life, you know? And I think if the more that I've let myself be like, okay, this is where we're going right now. God, I need you. I know these things are true about you. I know these things are true about life and your power and miracles and all of the above. Like I will lean into all of that stuff, but I gotta find God at the bottom as much as I find him at the top, and make sure that I'm not trying to do it alone, you know? And yeah, I think I would like to be like, you know, that is not like you just swat that thing away. You just take some medicine and swat it away. But I think that God has a lot to teach us, and he taught a lot of people in the Bible in the desert in a really crappy place, you know.
Yeah. You think about Paul never getting relief from whatever he was dealing with, right? I mean, you think about that too, having to lean into that because there wasn't relief coming, you know, as far as we know, from what we read. So that's incredible. What a journey you have been on these last, you know, I guess decade and a half, really. And I appreciate you sharing it with us today.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
What an amazing journey Rachael has been on. So inspiring. If you want to get more information on her music, head over to rachaellampamusic.com. Up next, a former NFL standout who is using his platform to help save unborn babies' lives. We'll be back with more Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel in just a moment. Welcome back to Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel. Our next guest is former NFL tight end Benjamin Watson. Now, after his successful football career, Benjamin has been on a mission to be a voice for the unborn. He's also been sharing his Christian faith along the way, and we're going to get into that and so much more. Let's welcome him to Newsmakers. Benjamin Watson, I want to dive right in on something that I find pretty incredible. You know, you had a very, very successful NFL career, and you could have just retired and lived your life quietly, but you are out there defending the unborn, working with the Human Coalition. What is it that motivates that work?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all, Billy. Good to talk with you. You know, I think that I don't look at it as that work or something as an addendum. You know, I believe as believers, we are called to be voices for the voiceless, and that manifests itself in a lot of different ways. For this season of life, a lot of our work has been with preborn children, defending preborn children, serving mothers, fathers, families, those sorts of things. And this is something that my wife and I have been involved with during my playing career. And so this is just a continuation, but it's been a true honor and joy to work along with Human Coalition and really to see kind of firsthand the work that they're doing and others are doing in this space, because as you know, right now is a very contentious time in America. It's always been important, but right now in this post-Roe era, there are just so many narratives to combat and so many people that are trying to figure out what's the best way to serve. So it has been an honor and I believe a duty to speak into this topic.
One thing that comes off of that, though, and you mentioned this, I look at culture and we really seem to have this inability to disagree with one another with grace and to walk away and say, like, hey, I may not agree with you, but that's okay. We can still be friends. We can still love one another. Why do you think our culture is in that? I mean, it's really an unhealthy place where you can't actually do that anymore.
Yeah, Billy, we're in a winner-take-all culture. And I don't know if it's any different than it was in the past. I mean, you know, I think we're around the same. I'm 42. So I mean, we always say, well, back then you could do this, but like, really, people were still fighting back then. Like, people were still fighting 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 2,000 years ago. Like, people were still in a winner take all mentality, and that's human nature. That's our sin nature. That's why when you read through Scripture and it talks about, you know, making every effort to keep the bonds of peace, and it talks about especially amongst the saints and agreeing. Even if we disagree on certain things, but having that certain level of respect, it's all rooted in the Imago Dei. It's all rooted in human dignity and people having inherent value, even if they are heathens going a total opposite direction than we want to go. They still have value in the sight of God, and so we address them in a way that is respectful to their dignity. That is countercultural, and I think it always has been. And so, I think it's imperative that believers try to model that. And also be honest that we don't model it perfectly. Like, we get on Twitter and snap on people sometimes when we shouldn't. Like, we say things that we shouldn't say, but when we're authentic in admitting that and saying that's not how I want to be, I think that we can set an example for a culture that is really all about winner take all. I'm going to get the last word. I'm going to trump you. I'm going to impose my beliefs and my will on you. And then outside of that, I think as Americans, it's important that we understand that the health of a country is not uniformity. It's not everybody thinking the same thing, but there needs to be a certain level of respect in our discourse that helps the country flourish and helps the the spirit of the country be one of unity and of striving for the betterment of your countrymen instead of disunity and cutting people down. That's easy to say, very hard to do.
Yeah, and I love the point you made. There's nothing new under the sun, right? Scripture tells us that too. I think it can feel different because of social media, right? And I think there's a different sort of manifestation of how it's handled. And yet again, you've modeled this so well, and you have a new book. The book is The New Fight for Life, Roe, Race, and the Pro-Life Commitment to Justice. You're tackling a lot in this book. Why did you write it?
Man, because I had nothing else to do. No, I feel like there's some messages that it's just the right time to say certain things, and certain doors open and experiences happen and opportunities, and then you just walk forward in it. And the plan was not to write a book about these issues because they're hard, but they're very, very important. Anytime we're talking about life and livelihood, there's going to be attacks from the enemy. There's going to be, discouragement sometimes, and there might be barriers, but also there's going to be great growth and encouragement and just life-changing, movements happen when people step out of whatever is the norm. And so I wrote the book primarily because we live in a post-Roe era. I think for the pro-life movement, Roe v. Wade was a worthy banner, a worthy goal to attack. It was egregiously decided in the very beginning, and it's something that needed to be overturned. That being said, we should celebrate, but also understand that the driving factors or abortion-determined women are still going to be very prevalent in America, even though Roe has been overturned. And I think what we've realized in the last year is that, look, in some states where there have been bans, the abortion numbers have come down, but in other states where there haven't, they've gone way up. And so the issues are still there. The law is important, but how do we as a pro-life movement understand that 76% of abortion-determined women say they would prefer to parent if their circumstances were different? How can we as pro-lifers engage with those 76% and address those issues, whether it be relationship with the dad, housing, reliable employment? The list goes on and on that these women list.
Childcare,
healthcare, exactly. The list goes on and on, reasons why these women say they would abort. I believe those are all pro-life issues, and we have to address them as such in order to turn off the faucet.
People can grab the book. It's The New Fight for Life, Roe, Race, and a Pro-Life Commitment to Justice. Benjamin Watson, as always, appreciate your time.
Man, same to you. Thanks for having me.
Benjamin Watson's latest book, The New Fight for Life, Roe, Race, and a Pro-Life Commitment to Justice, is available wherever books are sold. And when we come back, we'll explore one woman's journey from war-torn Lebanon to sharing the gospel all over the world. This is Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel. Welcome back to Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel. For our final segment, we are sitting down with Rita Almanier. She is CEO of Sat7. Now, Sat7 is a Christian media ministry that creatively shares the gospel all over the Middle East and Africa through satellite. Now, we're going to talk about her journey. She was born in war-torn Lebanon in the 1970s, and she found Jesus, and her story is absolutely incredible. Let's welcome Rita to the show. So you are responsible for helping spread the gospel throughout the Middle East. What is that like for you?
It's so exciting. Usually the picture of the Middle East and North Africa in the eyes of the Western audience is a gloomy picture of terrorism and violence and wars, etc. But I'm from the Middle East, and I have witnessed stories of changed lives because they were exposed or watching Christian media. So it's exciting to see the opportunities there. Where there is violence, there is still a church praying. Where there is hardship, there's still people not giving up. Where there is, oppression, there's the largest growing church in the whole world, talking about Iran. So it's really exciting to see how God is working in a place like the Middle East.
And you've been doing this job now for a long time as a broadcaster and running Sat7. Now, for those who don't know, can you talk a little bit about the work of Sat7?
Sat7 is a bouquet of 4 channels, 2 in Arabic, broadcasting for the all 22 Arab countries in the Middle East and North Africa. One of them is for the family, and one is 24/7 for children. And the 3rd channel is in Turkish, broadcasting into Turkey. And the 4th channel is Farsi, broadcasting into Iran and Afghanistan with the language of Farsi, Dari, and Tajik. And in 2021, we have launched our first video-on-demand, Christian video-on-demand service in 3 languages, Arabic, Turkish, and Farsi, and starting heavily working, producing a specific program for social media.
And I know your story, your personal story of coming to faith and technology even. It's really interesting. I'd love for you to tell that story because I look at what you're doing now, as CEO of Sat7, running this, and yet your child had the connection. So I won't spoil it. I want you to tell that story.
Well, I'm Lebanese, and I was born in the country of war. It was in the 70s, and it was not easy, especially that my mom was very sick, and she lacked, or this country lacked, the medical care, so she passed away during the war. I was very young, I was 7, and my sister was 5. And my dad was so much affiliated with the Christian militia because we didn't have a proper army. Well, the army was divided as Muslim and Christian. So my dad was with the Christian militia. So we were afraid, my sister and I, to lose our dad as well, especially when we see him in the morning, like leaving. We had this insecurity of what's gonna happen next. But my dad played a big role in our lives. Our lives as a future career, let's say, or ministry as media people, because both of us studied media, and also as Christians. So I'll tell you how. The first thing is how he let us love media when the bombs were heavy outside, and it's not safe to go outside or to play outside. We're kids, and we are either hiding in bunkers or safest room in the house where they put earth around the windows. And my dad wanted to distract us, so he will bring a TV set, and it's black and white, and he will hook it to the car battery. I don't know how he did it, because we didn't have electricity. And he will let us watch television. I don't know what we were watching, just maybe Egyptian soap operas or cartoons. And each time the bombs are louder outside, he will come sneak in and put the volume louder, volume up. So we will be distracted and forget about the outside world and immerse ourselves with this virtual or fake world that is not real, but at least it will be a refuge for us. And this made us, when we became Christians, we were like at the age of 13, my sister, my 15, committed Christian. I think we're determined to do something with media. So we were gathering the children, the neighborhoods, playing, theater, etc. And we both studied media. But we said we need to produce programs with a purpose. This purpose of telling the children who also lived like us insecurities that you're not alone, and telling them about the love of Jesus, telling them about the security that Jesus has, telling them even though that sometimes you go into difficulties, hang on there. And this is what happened. My sister also works, in Sat 7, but Lebanon, The second part is my dad as well, with our Christian, walk, our journey. When the bombs were really just closer to where we lived, and you can hear the glass shattering around us and people shouting and screaming, he will come and he will cover he will cover us with his body. So if something happens to us, he will, pass away, not us. And this picture of a dad protecting us was our picture of God the Father, that whatever happens, he is there. Whatever happens, he is not going to leave us. He is our defender. And even though that sometimes things don't go the way we expect, we trust him and we know that he is there.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rita's amazing story shows the powerful ways that God can use us if we turn our stories over to him and open our hearts to him. We'll be back in just a moment with more Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel. That's all for Newsmakers. Thank you for watching, and be sure to head over to the CBN News YouTube channel where you will find the full interviews that you saw on today's episode. We will see you again next week for another Newsmakers.